In this video, we're going to be looking at another statistic that can be used to measure the position of a data point. And that stat is percentile. Now, percentile can be thought of as what percentage of the population is a data point greater than. And you've seen an example of this if you've ever taken the SAT or the ACT, because on your score report, it probably told you something like you scored in the 75th percentile on the math part. And what that means is that on the math part of that test, you did better than 75% of the people who took it. It doesn't mean your score was 75, by the way. It just tells you that you did better than 75% of the people who took the test. Now, in Excel, to find percentile, one of the first things we have to do is actually tell Excel the whole data set. So let's do that right now. We're going to go ahead and enter in the data set from this example here about a quiz, a 20-point quiz that a teacher gave. And once we have our data entered, so I'm just going to go ahead and highlight a bunch of these yellow to remind me that I have to enter those values. Once we have our data, there are two possible directions this can go. One of them is I know the value. So that's like, I know my score on the test. How did I do compared to everyone else? And then the other possibility is I know the percentile. So that's saying, hey, I want to be in the 75th percentile. What score do I have to get on the test? So if we know the value, we're just going to go ahead and enter in that value. That's going to be a data point that we have to tell Excel. And then Excel will go ahead and it will spit out what the percentile is. So in this case, let's use the one from the example. Find the percentile rank of a 12 on the quiz. So if I got a 12, what percentile does that put me in? Now there are two formulas for this depending on which direction we're going. To find the percentile for a certain value, we use this one right here, equals percent rank dot inclusive, and then we highlight the data and input the value. So equals percent rank dot inclusive, and then open parentheses. Now I'm going to do something new here, which is I'm going to highlight the entire column A by doing just A colon A. And notice how that highlighted the entire column. That way, even if I have a really big data set with a ton of test scores or whatever else we're measuring, it'll collect all of that data. And then I'm going to go ahead and click on the value, because that's where I'm putting in like the score that I got in the quiz or the whatever. So this tells me right here that if I got a 12 on the quiz, then that puts me in the 66th percentile for this test. Now I'm going to do one thing here. I'm going to format this so that it shows up kind of like a percentage, even though it's a little different than a percentage. This way it will round, or it'll put that decimal place in the right position. Now the other direction we can go with this is if we know the percentile and we want to find the value. So in this case, the number that I would be getting or inputting is the percentile. So in this case, hey, let's say I want to do really well on this quiz compared to everyone else. I want to be in the 90th percentile. I would put in here that I want to be in the 90th percentile, 90%. And down here, in order to now calculate this, I have to use the other Excel formula, equals percentile dot inclusive, highlight the data. I'm going to do the same thing, A colon A, to highlight the whole column, and then tell Excel the percentile. Now I'm going to hit enter. And it'll tell me here that in order to be in the 90th percentile, I have to get an 18.2 on this quiz. I want to reiterate here, even though an 18 would give me a 90% on the quiz, that's not what this is saying. This is saying if I want to do better than 90% of people, I would need to get an 18.2. just like up here, this is saying if I got a 12 on the quiz, then I did better than 66.6% of people who took this quiz. So if you want to reuse this spreadsheet here, remember you do have to re-enter the entire data set that we're dealing with in the particular problem, and then you can adjust these values here. The last thing I want to point out is that you're generally only going to use one of these to solve any single problem or to answer any single question. You don't have to edit both of these highlighted cells in order to answer one question usually.